Nintendo's been on a sports kick with the Nintendo Switch, and Mario in particular has been consistently seeing new entries in all of his major sports outings. Now it's football's turn, or soccer for those of you in the US and Japan, with the return of Mario Strikers by Next Level Games. The Mario Strikers series has always felt different from the other sports titles Nintendo produces. It's the only one developed outside of Japan, and has this slightly more epic visual style to it. While Battle League football isn't as grunge as Strikers Charged was, you can still feel the emotions of the characters coming through the animations. Yet, for everything different, Battle League football also falls into many of the same trappings as previous sports games on the Nintendo Switch, which is disappointing. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Mario Strikers Battle League football brings that same Mario Strikers fun from its previous two outings, but now slightly tweaked, some in good ways and some in bad ways. For the good, this game feels very responsive and very in-depth. The tutorial is quite hefty, teaching players a lot of basic skills like passing and shooting, but also expert skills like perfect shots and feints. The system is quite in-depth here, although it does lead to many matches becoming cases of quickly passing the ball to create as much chaos as possible before taking a shot. Chaos is the name of the game here, because the title feels more chaotic than ever before. One of the big changes in this game over previous entries is the removal of distinct captains. Before, players would pick a captain who would perform the hyper strikes and had specific items tied to them, and then 3 sidekicks to act as defense and support. This is gone. Now any character is able to fill any slot. The problem with this, however, is now the game goes from having one character per team that can pull off the hyper strikes to having every character able to do so. This leads to more chances for hyperstrikes to happen and more of a scramble when a player picks up the hyperball. To counter this, it feels like the frequency of items has been increased, even though the number of unique items has been reduced, so that the opposing team can always attempt a long-range disruption of an opponent attempting to enter the hyperstrike. This makes sense on paper, but now items are flying all over the place and adding to the sense of chaos. Chaos is fun for sure, but it does affect the game's balance in weird ways and feels like it needs slightly more tweaking. Something else that needs tweaking is the online mode. It's not very good, and for a game that seems to want to live and die by its online, that is a problem. For starters, before the player can even get online, they need to find it in a menu, and that's not as easy as it sounds. On the main menu there is Club Mode, where the player makes their own sports club with friends to compete in online battle leagues. However, this isn't where the player goes to actually play online, at least with friends, and at least while a battle league isn't on. The player instead needs to go to Quick Play and then access online from there. There are 2 options, one to join and one to make a room, and these sound straightforward, except that they are not, because they actually mean 2 different game modes. Joining online means to play on the same side, and just making a room means a room to play against each other. It's confusingly worded. At least when you enter an online game from there, everything is pretty straightforward. It's a shame that players are limited to only 4 switches though. This feels like a game primed for 8-player online, and yet it can only happen if there are 4 switches and everyone is paired up. It's most likely a technical reason, but it's still disappointing. The online is just quite laggy. Nintendo's online has always been a bit inconsistent, but usually I personally have had great connections playing their games. But this was the first time I felt proper input lag and had very consistent stuttering, and that's disappointing. It should be noted though that this only happened when I played with a friend. When I played on my own, 1v1 online, it seemed fine. For online, the online club league seems to be where it's at, with players earning points as they win matches and climb through the ranks. As of writing and recording this review, the first season of the league has not started yet, and I'm not a big fan of that. Limiting content for specific times is something Nintendo has done with other games like Splatoon 2's Salmon Run, and it usually just means I won't end up playing it. At least in this case, it seems like it's basically the same as Quick Play Online, just in a ranking system. Outside of online, players are limited to playing locally or playing in cups against CPUs. There are quite a few cups here, but they are all really easy. It wasn't uncommon for me to end a game against a CPU 12-0 up, and I am not that good at this game, at least if my online track record is anything to go by. It has its moments of difficulty, but this game feels like it needs to be harder and offer more challenge to the player. There is a benefit to playing it though, and that's to get coins to buy gear. Every character has 5 pieces of gear for each body part, head, feet, hands and chest, that can be bought and equipped to alter stats. Only one piece of equipment can be equipped per body part, but it gives players the ability to customise their characters in several ways. This is a really smart move, as characters come with their own unique stats, but the gear can be used to essentially overwrite this and turn a player's favourite character into one that can function in any role. So if the player really wants to use Princess Peach as their defence, they can with the right equipment. On the topic of characters, the game only has 10 so far, but it's already been confirmed that there are more on their way. It's the same drip feeding of content that Nintendo has done with their own other Mario sports games, some with success like Tennis Aces and some with failure like Golf Super Rush. We'll have to see how it works out for this game, but at least with every new character added, the game will develop some further character of its own, because the one place this game truly excels in is the animations and visuals. The animations in Strikers games has always been exceptional, and this title is no different. While it's not as edgy and the camera shakes less than it did in Strikers Charged, the animations here are still so energetic and goofy, and very much fitting of the Mario style. Just look at the way Waluigi dances here, it's great. The Hyper Strikes are also very over the top, with Yoshi turning the ball into an egg and butt slamming it towards the goal, or my personal favourite, Rosalina launching the ball into space and around a football-shaped planet in order to freeze the ball, and then kicking that frozen ball directly at the opponent's goalie, freezing them in the process. It's brilliant. Mario Strikers Battle League Football is a fun game, despite my complaints about its online setup. It could do with a few balance tweaks, but it's not so chaotic that it's annoying to play. The real problem comes from the content and what you do with that content. So far, the single player side of things is very lacking, and what is there is painfully easy. So it comes down to the online and Battle League features, and when it isn't lagging, it's fine. But this does mean that, like Nintendo Switch Sports, this is another game that is hard to recommend unless you have a Nintendo Switch Online subscription. There just isn't enough content to support the game otherwise, unless you're just content to play against friends locally with the same small roster of characters. Just like Mario Tennis Aces before it, I hope that in a year's time things pick up and the game finally has a substantial amount to do in it. But for now, this one is for the online players only, and there isn't much else. A special thank you to Nintendo UK for sending us a copy of this game to review. Those of you who have picked it up, let us know in the comments, and those of you who are thinking about picking it up after listening to our review, do let us know. Are you going to wait to see if more content comes out, or are you just keen to play the local or online multiplayer and want to get it now? I'll be interested to hear your thoughts. A special thank you to all of our patrons. The $5 and up tier are on screen right now. If you want to know how you can get your name up here, there is a link to the Patreon down below. Obviously, do as you do with the YouTube thing to help spread the video. It'd be greatly appreciated. But the best thing you can do is always remember to return to the source.